Welcome back to the Requel Pitch Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and I'm in the car, and that's what I do. What I do is I take ideas of already properties and talk about rebooting, remakes, sequels, requels, what we should do with those properties. Sometimes I'm alone in the pitch, like here in the car, or sometimes I have a special guest. Today we're going to talk about a movie that's been a while since I've seen, but it's been on my mind. I've been trying to track it down. And it's kind of a special, personal type movie. It's The Fighting Seabees, starring John Wayne. That's right. And anyone who has a dad who's my age loved John Wayne because that's just how things were. My dad is a retired Seabee. And most people have no idea what the Seabees are. It's funny because they are spelled Seabee. But the trick is it stands for C, as in the letter C, B, and the letter B, for Construction Battalion. They are a branch of the Navy, and there's a really unique story about it, and that's why I think The Fighting Seabee should be remade. They were formed in World War II as a branch of the military that nobody kind of really wanted, but the Seabees decided, or the Navy decided to take the Seabees. They're not on ships. And that's what's so funny about them is my dad all the time when I was growing up, he'd say he's in the Navy and people go, oh, on a ship. It's like, no, he's in the Seabees. And they kind of look at me like, what? It's not that well advertised. And I think if you're someone who thought about military service and you're into building, this is for you, right? My dad's specialty was electrician. So you learn a trade, you do a trade, and you build, like he built bases, runways, schools, hospitals, all that stuff in other countries as well as in the States needed. That is what the Construction Battalion does. And I remember watching this movie for the first time and thinking about, holy cow, this is unique, because I felt connected to it because of my dad and because the Seabees are such a small group of the military. But it's Wedge Donovan, is the man who kind of leads this up. And they're construction workers who are being trained, like regular military. And it's about the story of them, the story of them in battle in World War II and how this unique concept idea becomes a new branch of the military that is under the Navy. I think the pitch isn't, really that detailed. It's just a movie that needs to be remade. I mean, that's the argument. Because I think about, it has that American spirit that I think we so miss in cinema of like where we're behind something. World War II is always great because it's kind of the last big time we felt like we were the heroes. There's a clear villain, And I always think about, though it's not historically accurate, but, just the grandeur that was Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. I think about probably my favorite directed Mel Gibson film, We Were Soldiers. My dad read that book. I read that book. It's a great war film. Recently, I did watch Hacksaw Ridge. Another great movie. And I think there's a grandeur to those that we just haven't seen in those epics. I mean, you can split the story. I mean, I think back to Clint Eastwood's Flags of Our Fathers and Letters of Iwo Jima. My father actually was on the island of Iwo Jima in his time and built some things there. And I think those are the style template that I'm thinking. I mean, my initial pitch years ago when I had this kind of idea was directed by David Ayer. I think David Ayer, his Tank film that he did, why am I blanking on it? Crap. It's been a long day and my mind's everywhere. But it starts with an F. But I thought of him because David Ayer also was in the Navy. And though he wasn't a Seabee, I think there's a sense of doing justice and honor and wanting to represent something. And you have some directors who can really tap into that military vibe quite well. And, that's who my thought was years ago. And I just feel like this is a unique story that can bring light to the military. Because, the military is tricky because, at the time that, World War II and the Seabees and everything, you have the heroes, right? We were the heroes. And now it's very difficult because everything's political. So, and I think, the fighting Seabees, it just brings out something in cinema and in our culture and that heroic America, back that generation. But hey, just food for thought. Another short one, Remake, the fighting Seabees. You could split it with part of it being the story of getting there and creating the Seabees, as well as with them fighting, and then even who they are today. And I've been to the Seabee Memorial, of course I have, with my dad. There's a nice little Seabee Memorial I found in New York near the falls, Niagara Falls. And I think a cool narrative would be maybe even the inn is someone learning about this, like a high school student learning about, they go on a field trip and they see the Seabee Memorial and maybe they're thinking about joining up, and you have this kind of inn to the history and them discovering and finding out. So you see who the Seabees are now and what they've accomplished now in current day as you go back and you tell the story of the fighting Seabees. That's my pitch.